mic. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Let me know if you can hear me. Yeah, I've had some problems with the soft with the. Ooh, Charlotte, can you hear me on Facebook? Let me know because I just changed the mic. And if that doesn't work, I'll just simply go to the MacBook. Yes, you can. Okay, awesome. Here we go. Sorry about that. Just part of getting everything together. But I'm really excited this morning because we're just testing out software. I had no sound. Hey, Shemelin, I do now, right? So let me know. I'll just cut it off, tell people where to go and start the video from like 2 minutes in. Oh my goodness. We will get it right. Okay, I thought this was working, but it apparently isn't. So here's the thing, everybody, right? I had this software for the longest while, the pro version as well, and didn't know it had all these features. So I was using another one that, didn't give me as many options as I have this morning, going live everywhere. Okay, even more options going live. And I'm like, wait a minute, isn't that like us, like not knowing your identity and not knowing what comes with being who you are? So you settle for less. You do less because you don't know all your features, all your advantages, all your privileges. And I think I really want to start as being a child of God this morning. Yesterday, I was out and about. I had to speak at two schools. Yesterday, it's Black History Month everywhere, and all speakers get spoken, get to speak and get all sorts of things. So I went to two schools, and in one of them, I was really talking about identity, and that's part of what I want to bring up this morning. So I'm hoping Instagram too. You can hear me. Hey Alex, how are you doing on Instagram? So I was talking about identity, and this thing that just happened this morning is even more proof of that. When you know who you are, then you know what you're capable of. When you know exactly who you are, you know your worth. You know where you stop, as the Trinidadians say. I love that. That's where I stop. You just know yourself. You know what you're capable of. You know how far you can go. You know what your boundaries are. You're like, okay, you know what? I'd love to do this, but this is not me. I can't do it. Okay. But that takes that getting to that point, it really does take knowing yourself, spending time with you, also spending time, I think, with who does God say you are? That's my starting point. When I began preparing for these speeches this month, I still have quite a couple to do. One of the things that was very depressing was like trying to get and glean facts from history, Black history. It's very painful going back in the past. The present is painful, far less the past, which was worse when there were not laws, where there weren't laws and things in place to protect Black people. And at one point, I just got so it was just paining me. I just felt so hurt, so bogged down with the weight of history. I was like, Lisa, what is your starting point for everything? Like, how do you cut through the noise and the pain and the buts and the everything? And how do you get things done? How do you show up confidently, Lisa? And so I went back to my simple equation that if God made me and he said that this is who I am, I sure am going to believe him. Because let me tell you something, if you own a BMW, you do not go to a Toyota dealership to get any kind of meaning or understanding of what the BMW is. And I think we need to look at each other, look at ourselves as that BMW, right? Look at yourself as that person who is precious, valuable. Yesterday, I was saying to the students, you have nothing missing and nothing broken. And so, this particular school that I spoke at here in Edmonton, the Black Students Alliance has just grown from year to year. Last year, when I spoke, it was one speech for the entire, not just the Black students, but what they've done is to make it an integrated thing. So the entire school comes out for Black History Month and for these kinds of talks, because when you educate Black people, you also educate everybody else to be able to have an integrated and peaceful society. So that's the thinking behind it. Yesterday, it was so overly subscribed that we had to have two groups of students, the junior high and the senior high. It was just amazing to see teachers, black and white, students, black, white, Filipino, Asian, all sorts of students together doing the work of looking at a people who have traditionally and historically been denigrated and saying, hey, this is our time now. It's no longer that. Let's make it different. Let's do our part together to work on our minds and to work on, just making it good for everybody. It was a wonderful experience. And so one of the things I started with was my own journey. That if this is who God says I am, I'm going to believe it. And believing it is acting it out. You know how I always say, if you've been following me for a while, a couple of things you probably know that I say that um, if you're a runner, you run. If you're a writer, you write. If you're a speaker, you speak. If you're a woman, you woman. I don't even know where that came from. I'm gonna have a little fun here this morning. You guys can still hear me. Volume is okay and everything. Hey, Instagram, how are you doing? So it's all of these things that when you know who you are, right, you just act accordingly. And so obviously the big question is, how do you get to know who you are? I go back to how I discovered features of the program that I'm using this morning to go live in more places than I thought I could. You hear what I said? And just kind of make the analogy with your identity that when you know the full range of what you're capable of, you have more options. But that does not come if you don't do the work of spending time with who made you and spending time knowing yourself. And that's all the work that I do with my clients as a life coach. I help you to be able to. I was on the treadmill yesterday, right? And it occurred to me exactly. Oh my goodness, is there still no sound? Tell me, please. No sound. Okay. Or these ones must have been the old ones, the old comments that are coming up. Okay, so just let me know if you can still hear me. I would appreciate that. Share this platform, please. What do you mean, Shermer? What do you mean share it? It's also on my personal page, I think, and on my business page. So you can check it out there. I'd love if you could share it, by the way. Thank you, Shermalyn. Shermalyn is the consummate marketing professional. Okay, you hear what she said? Share it. So wherever you are listening to me on LinkedIn, on any of the platforms, on Facebook, now on YouTube, on both my channels, Basement Chronicles and the Lisa M. Dublin Poetry Channel, and also on Instagram, please share this live and let's talk about identity and get this out of the way and go on with ourselves, right? So I was saying that you need to know who God made you to be, and you also need to spend time with yourself. Then you know what you're capable of. Then you know the features, you know the range of potential and opportunities available to you. Then you can ditch what's not working because immediately that I'm done here with this live, the software that I was using before that was limited, I no longer want it. So when you know yourself, you have options, you guys. Doesn't that make sense too in our own lives? Like when you know, and I don't need to take this. Do you know who I am? And you don't say it in an arrogant way. It's just like, this is me. Okay. I don't need to take this because I have options. You won't know that if you don't spend time with yourself. And that question of how do I get to know myself and how do I deepen my identity? Here's one way that is so amazing. And I love to talk in analogies. You know what? You can tell that I'm a literature student, right? Okay. Here's the thing. For the last how many years in Canada, I live in Edmonton. Everybody knows Tim Hortons in Canada. Some people don't like it. I do. I'm one of them who likes Tim Hortons, right? I have been going to get the same coffee every time I go to Tim Hortons, right? I've kind of like lessened on it right now. But every single time I go to Tim Hortons, I get a certain coffee. That's what I get. And even though I used to have options before when I first started and trying out, testing out the offerings of that coffee company, I settled on this. And the way that I became the person who gets that coffee is because I kept on doing it over and over and over again. One of my favorite books, Atomic Habits by James Clear. And you can look at my podcast episode number 10 where I speak about that book and what I learned from it. And I want to do that like every 10 episodes, like take a book that has really impacted me and talk about it. James Clear says this. He says the way that you build identity, which is so important for having good habits, I'll tell you the link later in a bit. He says the way that you build your identity or change it is to do the same thing over and over and over again. So now I've become that person who gets that coffee because I've been doing the same thing over and over again. If you really think about it in your own life, where your habits are concerned, right? You are that person who either has the good habits and has that identity because you've been doing it over and over again. Unfortunately, these are good, both good and bad habits, right? These are both good and bad habits. So maybe you've had a really bad habit that has become identity. I don't even know how to stop, right? I always like to look at things with the push and pull factor. If you have a really bad habit that you want to stop, I don't even know that you can just pull away from it. I always go to my whole bagel story. When I first started this health and fitness journey, one of the hardest things to give up because it was a habit for me were the cinnamon raisin bagels. Anybody knows what I'm talking about? I loved them. I loved them. And I say loved because now they I looked at them last night and I was like, I don't even want that, right? And the way that I got there was not to try to pull away from the bagels, but to gradually increase how much healthy food I ate. The more healthy food I ate is the more I didn't want bagels, right? To the point where I was really hungry one time and I reached for protein, reached for chicken and vegetables. And I was like, okay, identity is changing because I keep on doing the same thing over and over and over again. Now, you might be listening and saying to yourself, okay, that's all well and good, but isn't that everybody's struggle to get the consistency to do something over and over again? Here's how you can do that because James Clear says when you change at the level of identity as opposed to just the habits, then it deeply becomes you, right? I'm pretty sure who is, let me see if Shumalin is still here. Okay, Nadine says she can, hey Nadine, how are you doing? So, for example, Shumalin is a marketing professional through and through. She'll market everything, she knows how to do it. There are certain things that just come very naturally to you because it's already identity. And I think like our eternal and lifelong struggle is to make identity the things that really matter to us and can move the needle for us. And here's one way that you can develop that habit of consistency. And now it's a plug for the newest episode of my podcast. So if you haven't already, grab your phone, go to Apple Podcast, and subscribe to Basement Chronicles, the podcast. Because now we have a podcast, and this podcast is now consistent. And I want to tell you why. You guys, this feeling of being unstuck, of doing a thing that you didn't know how to do before that you can now do with ease, that is what I sell. That is it. That confidence that comes from, hey, I couldn't do this before and I found a way to do it now. That is just gold. That's just like that is the Red Bull that gives you wings. Okay? Now how I got there is by making things easy for myself. And I speak about it in this week's episode of the podcast. So please go subscribe to Basement Chronicles, the podcast it's now on YouTube. Very easily. I was struggling all of these times. You must have seen the icon on the podcast promos, and I was never able to put it on YouTube. And then all of a sudden, one click, okay, just a little knowledge, and I was able to just publish all of them. So, and it's actually increased even the views on the Basement Chronicles channel on YouTube as well because the podcast is becoming more popular. We're now at 1,000 plus downloads at 12 episodes. Like I am just grateful and everything. Okay, but I want to explain that process. Let's talk about it. And I want you to put yourself in my shoes and think of your own life and how it is you're going to make something easy to do and how it's not just about climbing every mountain. Okay, if you can raise it and make it a valley for you to just kind of walk over, by all means, do it. By all means, make it easier for you to get to your goals because we have enough mountains around us already. So what happened was I started podcasting in July of last year. Last year, July. So if I was supposed to be producing episodes weekly, you can imagine how many I should have had. This is July to December, so we have like what? Is that 7 months, right? 7 4 is 20. No, I only had 7 episodes. And you know why? Because in spite of me seeing the numbers going up, the downloads were definitely rising with every publication of the podcast episodes. In spite of that, it was difficult to produce it, to record it, and to produce it. You guys should have seen like the setup to record the podcast on a Sunday. I had to create like a lovely audio space. I was trying my very best, so it was like get the comforters, get the pillows, okay? Get under there, put on the oh my goodness. Like every Sunday morning was a drama to record the podcast. And so at the end of 2023, I kind of just looked at myself. You know, the self reflection is very good. So instead of beating up on myself, oh, you're not consistent in that area, and we do that a lot. And when you go into that negative thought cycle, you don't even see the weeds for looking at the mud. I don't even know where that came from. I hope it makes sense. Instead of beating up on yourself, especially when you know that in other areas of your life you are consistent, why don't you just simply ask the question, why is this difficult? Why am I not consistent in this area of my life? The minute I asked myself that question, I began to get unstuck. And let me tell you how. I realized it was too much of a hassle to put all of this together. And then I began to look for a solution. So, from early January, which is why there's been a podcast every single week, because I found a system that works. I've gotten unstuck in that area. And that's what I can help you do. Whatever it is you're having difficulty with, wherever you are stuck, there's a reason that you're unstuck. We're going to get to it and we're going to figure out a way to make it easy and to find a system that works for you. Because it isn't that you're just lazy, or it isn't just that you're just willful. There's a reason that things aren't working. And that's kind of what I help clients do, right? I realized it was too difficult to record it. And so I began to look for a solution. And my solution, if you are in Edmonton, we have a great public library. You guys know that? Right there at the public library, and I had used that service before. You can actually go and just record. There's a sound booth. You just book your time. You can go record it. Oh, Gemma said she bought the James Clear book. Great, Gemma. Awesome. You're not going to regret it at all. Okay? Awesome. And so I booked. And when I did, just kept on booking, just kept on calling in and doing the booking and showing up regularly at the same time every week to record the podcast. Sometimes, most times, I record 2 at a time. So, you know what that means? So, I'm always 2 weeks ahead. Like, I don't know how to explain that feeling of being unstuck, except that it is powerful and it makes life worth living, and it says to you that if you could get unstuck in one area, you could do it in another. When I asked myself that question back in December, there was another thing that came up for me, because when we ask ourselves, or when we are asked questions that are thought provoking, we uncover things, right? I discovered another reason that this podcast was not getting produced on time is because I actually don't like editing it. No, I hate it. It's not my thing. Let me talk. So I decided to go looking for a podcast editor, and just kind of I looked at my life. I was like, you know what? It's just taking too much time, not with everything I have going on. If I want this to succeed, it's part of what I do. I love like it's just added a different dimension to my business. I was like, I kind of need to put things in place to make it possible. And isn't that what goal setting is about? Putting things in place. Let me take this out because this is not even working. Okay, let me put this off. This is nice and fancy, but I have to test it out. Probably do like I thought I had tested it out, but it's definitely not working. Okay. All right, so I found the editor. And we've been working, he's not even in this country, like I just maintain that the world is borderless. Anything you want to do, you literally can do if you have a system and you know where to go to find what, right? And we've just been working. And because I changed the things that weren't working to produce a thing that I wanted, now I'm able to have an episode every single Thursday. Okay? So that's my story of making it easy. And I'm hoping that when you hear this, you now look at your life. Why am I not exercising consistently? Is it just because I just want to turn off in bed, or turn on the other side in my bed? Or could it be I'm trying to be like other people, wake up early when I go to bed at midnight? Okay? Maybe you're not an early riser. So, why don't you do it at lunchtime or do it in the evening? Find another time when it works. So, on top of struggling to build an exercise habit, you find people also struggling against their natural inclinations not to be awake at a certain time. Okay? If it really is a matter of just laziness and you just need to push yourself maybe a half hour earlier, by all means try and give yourself reasons to keep on trying. But for the most part, my argument this morning is make things as easy as possible. Then it's easier to build consistency. And when you build consistency, you be the person who's doing that thing over and over and over again. Then the identity changes, and all of a sudden you look up, hey, oh, I am. Oh, who am I? I'm a podcaster. Oh, I'm a speaker. Oh, I'm somebody who exercises regularly. Not because I just had the pie in the sky, I want to lose 10 pounds, but I went deeper and I looked at my systems and put systems in place to make it possible to achieve the goal. I hope that helps this morning, y'all. Like, I forever after, when I say, like, I realized looking back even at my clients, it is that feeling of being unstuck that is so exhilarating for them as well. It's that feeling of doing something that you had not been able to do before. That it it's just a wonderful feeling. I'm sure you've had it. Tell me about your stories about it. The only thing about this platform is that I can't see the comments. We will have to work on that because the comments are very important. They literally are. So I need to know what everybody's, saying, doing, whatever. Let's see if that works. Okay. So you heard me okay. I hope that's great. Oh, I have a great resource coming out. If not tomorrow, it's going to be on Monday. So from December, I was working on this freemium, they call it, like a freebie, something to give value to people, even though it's free. And it's going to be our best year yet. It's for married people. 10 ways to like rekindle your marriage this year. So I polled my friends, polled my own marriage, and we just 10 fun things to do to rekindle, just the love and the affection in your marriage. I also have another resource, and that one is for the single ladies. All the single ladies out here, okay? Again, what I did, I polled my friends and it's like, okay, what advice would you give to a single person who wanted to be married? Because not every single person wants to be married, and I so get that because I have many friends like that. But if you are that person who's looking for your person, for your umphy, as I like to call your him, if you're, uniquely made for you, if you're looking for your umphy, I do believe that some of the tips in that other freemium, that freebie, some of those tips are definitely going to help you. So kind of look out for that. In the meantime, go subscribe to Basement Chronicles wherever you get your podcasts, or you can go on my website, lisamdublin.com, and you can go from there. Or also, you can just subscribe and enable notifications. Don't forget to enable notifications wherever you follow me so that I don't waste your time because I don't have time to waste myself. So when I come out and I say something, it's gonna be good. So enable notifications so your phone, your computer is gonna tell you whenever I go live or whenever I plan to go live. Okay, everybody. Thank you for rocking with me this morning. Thank you for the love and the support. And here's to many more unstuck moments for you and I hope this feeling of being unstuck is something that you experience on the reg. Like it has to be something that becomes a part of your life, and it comes from not wanting to stay unstuck, but finding ways to make things easy to do and change who you are to become who you want to be. Okay? Bye and have a great weekend. I'll see you here on Monday. Bye bye. See you guys.